All right, we'll see if that is we'll see if that's any better. All right, so if that's any better, let me know. If not, we'll figure it out again. So let me know inside of chat if that looks any better than what it was looking like. Is that much better? Okay, cool. And let's make sure it does when I zoom it in a little bit here. Still good? All right. Fantastic. Cool, guys. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the topic that I wanted to dive in this morning. Trend lines. Again, pretty simple stuff, guys. But again, there's a lot of traders I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, man, we got to really simplify this up. We got to really dial in, again, how you're looking at trend lines, how you're drawing them, how you're trading around them, and I think that small adjustment, right? So simple, right? But things that are so simple, we overlook at times, right? So simple, but a little bit of a readjustment, really just dialing that in. Okay, it can really help out a lot of traders see more success when they're trading, say off the trend. Okay, guys. So, all right. So now we're going to dive into the pre-market rundown right now at this point in time. Right. So again, from 8:45 until about 9:15, all we're doing is reviewing your top stocks for today. What are you looking at? What do you need a second set of eyeballs on? What do you think has really good opportunity in the market? Okay, so for the next 30 minutes, we're going to hit it hard. We're going to dive in deep to what you're looking at, review them. I'm going to come in unbiasedly, just let you know what I see. And then based on that, we can start building plans, make sure that you're prepared, ready to attack, and ready to lock in some profit on the day. Right. So pre-market rundown starts right now. Drop those top stocks here inside of chat. Let's dive into it. And again, let's make sure that you guys are all ready to rock for today's trading session. CCL, yeah. Go ahead and take a little bit of a look at CCL, right? We always start with the daily time frame and then work our way on back down. So again, it all comes down to like, let's just try and identify these key levels of support and resistance, right? So going right into the daily chart, gonna zoom out and like, all right, do we see any key areas coming up? Well, I see 20 bucks. Okay, $20 is a psychological level of support and resistance. So right now, CCL, the nearest level that I see is going to be up towards around 20 bucks. All right. And then go ahead and look left. This prior daily high, right around 1643, is going to be a level of support here on CCL. Then we can just dive into this intraday time frame and kind of get an idea what we look like. And the first thing that I see is we've been in a pretty nice uptrend since like June 26th, right? We've been in a pretty decent uptrend since the 26th of June. So do we have a key trend line here on CCL? And yeah, I mean, it looks like we do. So what we can do is we can come in off of these daily lows, all of these higher daily lows, and say, hey, we had a pretty significant trend line right against these lows, right? We're actually going to go back into our chart that has pre-market and post-market turned on. And again, look at how many times we've hit that trend line. Starts on the 26th of June, right? These two higher lows. It connects on over here the very next day. Then it connects again here post-market on the 29th, this prior Thursday. And then pretty much connects again here on Friday. So we can see that we had a pretty decent uptrend that we hit 1, 2, 3, right? 4 times. And it looks like we just fell below that trend line. So I'm not saying, hey, let's go short the stock. But I'm saying, hey, we had a pretty decent uptrend. We just cracked it, and we could be due for a little bit of a short term pullback. They're on CCL. So again, let's continue to dive into it. We know we have resistance up towards around 20 bucks. We know we have support here from the daily back down around the 1643 level. And something else that I see that really stands out is some of this bearish daily divergence. I mean, take a look at CCL. Look at this high that we put in here on the daily. Take a look at your RSI. Okay. And then look at this higher high that we put in. But look at the RSI. The RSI is not putting in a higher high. The RSI is actually putting in a slightly lower high, while the stock is putting in this higher high, which is what we call bearish divergence. So, first thing that we see is some daily bearish divergence there on CCL. The other thing that we notice is when we really take a step back and we zoom out, we had a pretty decent uptrend over the past maybe week or so, and it looks like we just fell below it here in pre-market. Okay, that's number two. So we just cracked that trend line. We have some slight bearish divergence. I mean, you can even see this here on a 4-hour time frame. I mean, look at this high that we put in. Look at where your RSI was. Look at this higher high here on the daily. Look at where your RSI is at right now. We have some bearish divergence off this higher high, which indicates we could start to see an upcoming pullback. May not happen today, but hey, getting a nice little pullback into this prior resistance level makes a lot of sense. We broke that level. We have yet to pull back to it and really test it as support there on CCL. So I would say that if we do start to see a pullback, that would be a great area to see CCL pull back to, which would be $16.43. Now, if you're looking to get involved to maybe the short side, where could you look for a short entry at? Well, up towards around 20. If you get one more spike up towards around 20 bucks and you fail to break above 20, knowing that's a really strong psychological level of resistance, that's when you could probably start to see CCL start to pull back just a little bit. Or if you get a new daily low, right? So just take a look at the past week, right? We have yet to see a candle put in a new daily low. So I would say if you don't get to 20, but you start to crack below the prior day's low of day, which right now would be Monday's low of day here on CCL, which is 1844. That could be an area that you think about getting involved here with CCL, right? If we start to fall below, right, Monday's low of day, that's when you may be able to, start to see CCL start to drop on off just a little bit. And again, you have some room back down towards around the 1643. You have some bearish divergence. Again, you cracked that slight uptrend that we had here from Monday, June 26th, right? We had that uptrend. We fell below it this morning. We have that daily bearish divergence. Okay. And again, a good signal for a possible short would be if we see a new daily low, right? If you just look back again to the 26th of June, Monday, since then, you're just stair stepping your way up. We have yet to see a new daily candle low come in. Be the indication of, hey, that's when we could start to see a bit of a pullback here on CCL. Okay. And again, coming back down into this prior daily resistance level of like 1642 would be a great area to see CCL pull back to. And then, right, I want to point out that you have this gap that could be filled as well. So that would be like your first area to start getting out of CCL if you do get short for any reason, would be this daily gap fill. And then seeing it come back down towards around that 1642. So a couple of different ways again to trade this. If you're thinking short, is number one would be wait for the stock to spike up to 20, right? Top on out, clearly see there's a resistance at 20, and there be a reason to actually take the short, like an intraday reason to get short up towards around 20 bucks there on CCL, right? For the drop on down. Or if we start to see CCL cracking below 1844, and again, there's an intraday setup, there's an intraday reason. Maybe it's a crack and retest, right? Maybe we come down, we crack that level, we come back up and retest it, and we see that level's being respected. Again, there has to be a reason intraday to confirm your entry. But if you see something like that, if we start cracking below Monday's low of day, again, that's 1844. That could give you some confirmation as well to get short. Where to? Down to fill this daily gap and then back down into that prior daily resistance around 1642 there on CCL. Now, if you're like, well, I think it's still going to go long, well, it could go, right? It could definitely go another dollar to the upside, right? It has room to get up towards around 20 bucks. Okay. So if we start breaking over Monday's high a day, and you hold above Monday's high a day, that could confirm an entry to the long side, right? So if you see CCL open up, break above Monday's, high a day, pull back and retest it, that could be an area that you look to get long for that leg up to 20 bucks. Okay. So you could absolutely see a break over Monday's high a day as long as we stay above Monday's high a day, right? You could definitely see a nice push up to 20. But if you fail to break Monday's high a day and you ever see us cracking below Monday's low of day, again, that's at 1844, that's when you could expect to see CCL come down and fill that daily gap, right? That'll put you down into the low $17 area there on CCL. Right. And then lastly, you have a slight uptrend, it looks like, there on CCL. Don't you have a bit of a trend line? You got a slight trend line here, and it's valid, right? Here's a pullback low prior to that new high. So this is a pretty significant low. Here's a pullback low prior to that high. You pulled back again and you respected it. So again, you start cracking the trend line, you start thinking short, you really start cracking below Monday's low of day. You can really think short for a daily gap fill. Okay. The trend line holds on up. You can look to play it long back into Monday's high a day. And if we ever break Monday's high a day, you have some room up towards around $20 there on CCL. We'll have to see how we open up too, because again, I'm looking at this trend line with pre-market, with post-market turned off. Obviously, when you turn pre-market, post-market on, it gets a little jacked up, those trend lines. But again, if you're looking at daily trend lines, like trend lines from actual trading sessions, those trend lines are going to be more valid, right? And looking at trend lines from pre-market, post-market. So moving forward, I have a tendency to really just focus on our actual trading session levels, whether that's support levels, resistance, highs and lows, trend lines. Really just identify my setup and doing my TA with pre-market and post-market turned off, especially if it's not a penny stock. And especially if it's not a stock that's moving a lot in pre-market, post-market, right? If it's a stock that has a lot of volume in pre-market, post-market, I'll definitely look at those levels in pre-market and post-market to gauge where the stock could be going if there's a lot of volume and a lot of movement. But again, if the stock's not really moving a lot in pre-market, post-market, right? There's not tons of volume. Then I'm going to go straight into my chart that has no pre-market, no post-market data, and really just identify my levels with those two turned off, just so you guys have an idea of why I have these two different charts, right? I have one with post-market, pre-market turned on. Obviously, when we're looking at penny stocks, those levels are going to be key, right? There's a lot of volume in the morning with penny stocks. Those pre-market levels and post-market levels are valid levels. But for example, CCL, we can see there's no trading volume. It's not surging up. It's not dumping on off. I would probably just go right into my chart with the pre-market data, post-market data turned off, and really identify my levels based on that, compared to utilizing any of those pre-market, post-market data levels. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we took a look at CCL. Matt, let's take a look at IMPL for you. So right now, IMPL is up a little bit, right? Where'd we close at here? Looks like we closed at 125 there on Monday. Right now, we're trading at 168. So right into the daily. And the first thing that really stands out to me is this little gap fill, right? I see the gap here on the daily here with IMPL. So the first thing I want to do is I want to mark up that gap level. Okay. Then the 200 SMA. We can see we have the 200-day moving average up around 273. So the next thing I'm going to do, go ahead and mark up our 200 SMA. We got our gap fill level marked up. And then any other key area that really just stands out to me, support, resistance, right? Is there any other level that just really stands out? Well, yeah, I would say this 153-ish level really stands out to me here on IMPL. And then you guys got to work with me a little bit today. All right. Again, I'm using a completely new platform. Again, I've used TD Ameritrade my entire trading career. I've dabbled with using TradingView before, but it's a little different. It definitely takes a little bit of time to get used to it. So again, there's a little bit of a learning curve here with me right now, right? But I would say down around 153 because we've come up and hit this level several times, right around that 150 area. See, we come up, we've gotten rejected, 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 rejected. Lots of resistance right around 150, right? And 150 is a psychological level as well. So we have our 200 SMA marked up. We have this daily gap fill marked up. We have 150 daily resistance marked up as well. Now we can go right into our intraday time frame, right? And we can see that we're above that 150 level. We haven't came back down to it just yet, but we also haven't completely filled the gap. And what I see is we have lower highs and higher lows. So what I see is a trend line that we can go ahead and draw off these lower highs and higher lows. And we can see that we're in a little bit of a wedge formation right here on IMPL. Okay. So when you're inside of a wedge, it's really 50-50. When you're inside of these wedges, it's 50-50 on which way we're going to break out. We have no idea. Are we going to break to the upside and go and fill that daily gap? Or are we going to see a crack to the downside and see it dump back down to 150? Again, while we're inside of these wedges, like we're inside this wedge right now, it really is 50-50. So what do we need to do? We need to wait for confirmation, right? If you want to get short on IMPL, you're going to want to wait for a candle to close below this uptrend and confirm, hey, we've just cracked the trend line from the wedge. Now you could see a drop on down the 150. Okay. So if you're like, but Josh, I can't short IMPL. So if IMPL cracks out of this wedge to the downside, I can't short it. Would I have another trade opportunity? Yeah. You could look for a dip buy at that 150 support level, right? If we crack this wedge and we fall to the downside into that 150 support, you could look for a quick dip buy opportunity and get a quick scalp, maybe 10, 15 cents of reward for a dip buy there with IMPL. Okay. But if you're like, hey, if it breaks to the upside, I want to get long. Well, wait for confirmation and wait for the stock to actually close right above the downtrend, actually break the wedge to the upside. Then you can get long where to. I would say back into those pre-market highs, number one, right? Back into these pre-market highs, number one, then to come fill this daily gap, right? And this daily gap puts you between 203 and 223, right? So again, you have 203 and then you have 223 here on IMPL. And that could be a nice daily gap opportunity for you. And we can come in and fill this daily gap for sure. So again, if you're looking to get long, you want to see a break to the upside, right? Before getting in, wait for confirmation. And you could literally put stops under the trend line, under that prior swing low. So if you were to build a trade plan, this is what it would look like here on IMPL, right? You come in here and grab yourself a fancy long position tool. You want to wait for confirmation, wait for a break to the upside out of the wedge. You have room back into those pre-market highs, and you would simply put stops under the swing low. So if you were to get involved Here with IMPL, I mean, your entries could be probably right around like 175 ish, is right around your entries. Stops under the prior swing low, and your target would be back up into these pre market highs. I mean, that puts you right at a 2 to 1, surprisingly, right into that resistance level. Stops under this prior swing low here, waiting for confirmation, puts you right at a 2 to 1 risk reward. So that's kind of what you'd be looking for here on IMPL if you're looking to get long on this for a break out of this wedge here on IMPL. That's going to be an IMPL wedge break for long entries, right? You're sitting right at a 2 to 1. Okay. And that's kind of what I look for. And if you do fill the gap completely, right, that puts you at a 4 to 1, right? That puts you at a potential 4 to 1 if you fill the gap completely. But realistically, your first target is going to be right into this pre market resistance. And again, you just got to wait for confirmation here on IMPL. And that's going to be a break out of this wedge to the long side. So, IMPL is definitely something that we could be looking at today. I'll go ahead and add it to the watch list, right? And we'll come back and take a look at it. I know WOLF was moving, and basically what we said is look for a break over this 6670 here on WOLF. Okay, so we just broke above that 6670 level. Let's see if we can stay above 6670 here on WOLF. And if we can stay above 6670, we've got some room up towards around 7129 here on WOLF. We would have some room up towards around, again, 71 29 there on WOLF. And if you just zoom out and go back, you see there's a lot of prior support, a lot of prior resistance right around that 7129 level. And we were just simply looking for a break over all of this resistance. I said 6670. It's actually right around 6650. I mean, you have a lot of resistance at 6650. A lot of resistance right around that 6650 level. Okay. And that's on WOLF. So if WOLF can stay above this 6650 level and ideally hold this VWAP as well, you could absolutely see a nice push off this level and see a nice grind throughout the day, all the way into your next resistance level of 7129 there on WOLF. So we'll definitely keep WOLF on watch. There's a lot of great potential to the long side here on WOLF. But one thing that I want to point out is if we start to crack this VWAP, and let's say we see more profit taking than buying today, you could literally look for a nice short back down into this daily resistance, right? And that resistance level puts you all the way back down around 59.25. So if you do not see, strong buying and you do not see this 6650 holding on up, you see us cracking that level, cracking below that VWAP, starting to roll on over, and we have a reason to get short, we could look for a short here on WOLF, again, back down towards around that 59.25 level there on WOLF. So you got WOLF, that's going to be on watch today, right? You got IMPL. Again, you just have to see if we're going to break this wedge to the long side or if it's going to crack and start to dump on off here just a little bit. Go ahead and save as DEFAULT defaults. Hit OK. We'll go back over to IMPL. We'll go here, change the template to default. Hit OK. Pop. We're good. Felicia, good morning. How you doing? All right, so you guys got about 2 more minutes. Is there another stock that you have on your watch list that you want me to review? All right, we take a look at IMPL. It's either going to be a wedge break to the long side, back into your pre-market highs. You're sitting at a 2 to 1, or you're going to crack the wedge and dump back down the 150. Then you could be looking for a possible dip buy opportunity back down around, again, 150. You could literally have 5 cents of risk, and you could grab a solid 10 cents on the bounce, right? And that would be a 150 dip buy opportunity if we crack the wedge and start to drop on off. But if we actually break the wedge to the long side, again, you're sitting right at a 2 to 1. There's some good risk reward here with IMPL. Hey, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be back. It's been a long, what, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's been 4 days away from you guys. I've missed you, right? So I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to start diving into it and continue to rock this small account for the month of July. And Felicia, if I'm not mistaken, you've been absolutely crushing it on your small account. So congratulations. Keep up the amazing work. And we're going to keep rocking and rolling, guys. So I'm excited. Happy to be here, as always. Happy to be here. All right, so 9:15. We got about 15 minutes until the markets opens on up. So give me 1 second. Let me get this pushed on over, and then we'll dive into the SPY and we'll discuss the game plan here today for the SPY. All right, so let's dive into the SPY, guys. And a couple things that I want to hit on. Again, we talked about trend lines this morning. We had a quick hit lesson this morning. We discussed trend lines and identifying key trend lines, significant trend lines. Okay. Not just a million of them, just like maybe two or three significant trend lines if you utilize trend lines as a part of your trading. And really, the SPY today comes down to a trend line. Number one, a trend line, and then a daily gap fill, right? We can see here, this is the SPY daily. And what we see here is from, again, Thursday into Friday, we left this big gap here on the SPY. We left this big gap. Okay. And then, hey, here on Monday, we had a little bit of a push on up. But go ahead and take a look here at pre-market, right? We're actually gapping down today, right? We closed Friday at 443.79. Right now, we're down about 2 points here in pre-market. And what's the first level that we're actually coming back down into? Right? We're actually coming back down into this gap up low of day. Right? Our gap up low of day was at 441.12. Where are we at right now? We're coming down pretty close to that 441.12. And what do we know about gaps? Gaps like to be filled, right? You mark up the high of day prior to the gap up, and then you mark up the gap up low of day, and that creates a gap. And so what do we have here? We have a gap here, right, on the SPY. So if we start falling below Friday's low of day, we're technically entering this gap zone, and this gap could get filled to the downside all the way down at 438.33. So that's number one, is we have our gap levels identified. If we fall below 441.12, we're technically entering this gap zone, and we could see a nice drop on down and close that daily gap. That's number one. Number two, right? Take a look at the past few trading sessions. Go all the way back to last Monday. And what we see here on the SPY is we have a pretty decent trend line that we've respected quite a few times, right? It actually starts here off this low a day from Monday. We can see that we kind of chopped around a little bit Tuesday, but overall held it. Came back down, validated this trend line Wednesday, came back down and validated it, what, 3 more times here on Thursday. So it's very clear and very obvious that we have a pretty sexy uptrend. Okay. And we see that this is a valid trend line. It's been hit 5, 6 different times. What's right at the same level as the trend line? Not only do we have that trend line, right? We also have the gap up low of day at 441.12. And we can see that these 2 points intersect. Okay. So if we come down into, right, that low of day at 441.12, and we come into this trend line, we can absolutely hold on up. That's a decent support level, right? The gap up low of day and the trend line. We have 2 solid reasons that we could see the SPY come down, hold that level as support, and then push back up into resistance. And where's resistance on the SPY? Well, you can see that we have a lot of clear resistance up towards around like 443.79. No, 443.61. Give me 1 second. Let me make an adjustment. Let's turn off the symbol last price? Yeah, we'll turn off the symbol last price. There we go. Yeah, so we can clearly see we have room into this daily resistance at 443.61. So, what would this look like playing on out, right? The SPY would open on up, ideally drop on down into the trend line, okay, into the gap up low of day. That's a support level. And if we actually hold that level, we could see the SPY push back into resistance, right? We could see a really nice, maybe $2 push to the upside today here on the SPY because we are again coming back down into that gap up low and the trend line, which falls at the same exact price, 441.12. If we hold that level, we're looking to get long today on the SPY. Okay. But what if we come down to that trend line? We come down into that gap up low of day, that support level of 441.12, and we crack. What if that happens? Well, hey, that's bearish, right? We'll be going from the bullish side of the trend line, right? We'd be going from this bullish side of the trend line, and we'd be going from the to the bear side of the trend line, right? We're above the trend line. We are bullish, right? Above this trend line, we're bullish. If we crack this trend line, we'll be going to the bearish side of the trend line. Okay. So that's one reason to think about possibly getting short here on the SPYs. If we go from the bullish side to the bear side of the trend line, if we crack that trend line support. And then number two, we would also be falling below the gap up low of day, technically entering that gap zone, which is also bearish. So if we come down into the trend line, come down into that 441.12 support level, okay, and we crack this level and stay below it, guess what? Then we only want to be looking to play this short. Where to? Again, back down to close this daily gap. All right, guys. So it's a really, really simple day with the SPY, right? This trend line, that gap up low of day at 441.12 is your line in the sand, right? Doesn't get any more simple than that. If it comes down and holds that support level and the trend line, we simply look to play it long back into all of this daily resistance. If we come into the trend line and we crack below the gap up low of day and we enter that gap zone, that is weak, that is bearish. We simply look to play puts for a nice few dollar drop to the downside, right? So you got about $2 of potential to the upside today, and you got about $3 of potential to the downside, again, depending on what the SPY does right there at that support level, at that trend line. So it's a real game of patience today, guys. Sit back on your hands and just wait, right? The SPY's going to do something at this level, right? We could pretty much say with 80% certainty that the SPY is going to come down to this level and do something. It's either going to come down and bounce for our longs, right? Or it's going to come down, crack that level, stay below that level, and give us an opportunity to the short side. Either way, we know with 80 to 90% certainty and 80 to 90% confidence, the SPY is most likely going to come down to this level and do something, right? Set up, move, develop, give us a reason to get involved. And when it does, we're going to attack it. All right, guys. So very, very, very simple day today with the SPY. You want to see what we do around 441.12. We stay above it. We're playing it long. We crack below it. We're looking to play it shorts here on the SPY. The stream's live. Yeah, you had to refresh it. So that's something I'm reaching out to my developer about today. Is it looks like you guys are still having to refresh um, the live stream, and it should just automatically refresh whenever I post a new link and a new ID. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get that taken care of. The development team will be in there today, just doing a few things for you guys. Yep, there's just a few things. When we did the stream and the scanners, it took away a piece of that functionality that we had to where anytime I upload a new stream, it should automatically upload for you. But again, we just have to get back in there and adjust a few things. So we'll be all set, guys. We'll get that all taken care of. And then I got to get my E-Trade account, make sure that's getting funded as of today. All right, guys. So that's my game plan with the SPY. Okay. Most of my focus today is going to be placed here with the SPY. Okay. My small account can't trade it today. I don't even have a way to trade it unless I do it from my phone. So if we see anything, I can log in on my phone, take those trades. But again, I can't load up Think or Swim. It jacks my Mac up pretty good. So all of that capital from the small account with TD Ameritrade is going to be migrated on over to E-Trade, and that's going to be the account that I use moving forward is going to be E-Trade. So we're all set, ready to rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get with it. All right. So any questions again, let me know. All right. If you have any questions, let me know, guys. We're all set, ready to rock. Okay. So spies on watch as always. If you guys are watching Tesla, I'm curious. Tesla had this big gap up there on Monday, right? And it pushed up a little bit, dropped on back off. We have a gap here on Tesla that could be getting filled in the near future. So if you're looking at Tesla, maybe for a pullback, you only want to short Tesla if it gets below 275, right? Tesla gets below 275.17. That's when you want to think about a short on down to 264. And Tesla right now is still above that 275.17 level. Okay. So if Tesla ever cracks below 275, that's when you could see Tesla come down and fill that daily gap all the way down towards around 265 there on Tesla, guys, right? So Tesla, you got this big gap that could get filled there on Tesla. We'll see how it plays on out today. All right, you're watching IMPL. IMPL is actually starting to crack out of this wedge to the downside. So right now, IMPL, wait for IMPL to drop on down towards around 150 and maybe catch a bounce play there on IMPL down around 150. All right. And then Wolf, WOLF. We wanted to see the stock hold above 66.50. As long as 66.50 holds on up, we do have some great potential to the long side. Here on WLF, we have some room up to like 71.29. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys are looking at? Anything else that you're watching? So, yeah, it's definitely a slower day, right? Your number one top gainer here, if you take a look at your scanners, Your number one top gainer here is up 30%, and that's a warrant. And then you have IMPL that's up 25%. So yeah, it's definitely a slower day. That's just coming off an extended weekend, right? You had a half day on Monday. Yesterday was closed. Today you have Fed minutes, right? So it's like a lot of people are recovering. A lot of people are still traveling back. Again, it's going to be a slower day. Right? We can see that with our leaderboard. Our number one gainers, IMPL, up 26%. That's not a lot. And then you have the market, the overall market, like the SPY and the Qs, right? Gapping down into some key levels. There could be some great opportunity, but what do we have going on today? We got Fed minutes today, right? Take a look at your economic calendar. You have FOMC minutes today, right? So that's going to be really, really important to see exactly what were the discussions and what were the talks in their last meeting and what are they planning on doing. So we do have FOMC minutes being released today at 2 p.m. That could really slow down the market just a little bit as well. Not a lot of news, not a lot of reasoning, right, for the market to really be hot, to really be, ripping and running. So again, we're all set, guys. We're just going to sit back and obviously trade the opportunity that's in front of us, right? Where is the best opportunity? I think it's going to be with the SPY today. I really do. I think it's going to be with the SPY down around this 441.12. And that's where I'm going to be looking to get involved here with the SPY down around that 441.12. And we are going to be gapping down a little bit this morning as well, right? So we should be live here in the next, 10, 20 seconds. I have no idea. I don't have a real time clock, but we are live. And there is the gap down here on the SPY. So we are live. Let's have some fun. Let's make it happen. Let's have a good day, traders. Let's lock in some profits. I really dislike how those trend lines get so thrown off when going from pre-market on off. So we just got to go back in and readjust that trend line a little bit. But still, coming on down to, again, that low of day that we saw here on the SPY. Looking at that low of day to see if that's going to hold up as support. And that puts you right around the trend line as well. And you can clearly see the trend line, right? When you throw this into a chart that has pre-market data on and then pre-market data off. You can see those points connecting beautifully on up. So again, we got that trend line down around that 441.12, but the main area is simply, right, the low of day from Friday. And we do have a gap that could be closed to the upside, right? We have the low of day here from Monday session, right? That's going to be up around 442.63. That's going to be the low of day again from Monday session. So right now, these are your two key levels of support and resistance, right? Resistance coming on up is going to be Monday's low of day, 442.63. And then support is down at Friday's low of day, which is 441.12. So again, I mean, you could be looking for a quick entry. Like we're seeing a little bit of obviously a gap down, right? We're gapping down here on the SPY, but we are starting to push on up just a little bit and maybe closing the gap from the gap down, right? And closing the gap to the candle wick, which was Monday's low of day, is 442.63. Right now, sit back on your hands. Let's see if the SPY is able to push on up into that 442.63 level. And if so, that could be an area of resistance. If we stay below that area, we could look for some put contracts for a nice drop on down to that 441.12. So let's see if the SPY is going to come up into that low of day from Monday and stay below it. If so, we could see the SPY roll on over, start to drop on off just a little bit here. So let's keep this one on high watch. Trading View. Yeah. So my PC, a lot of issues, even last week with trying to get it all fixed. So back on the Mac, and I'm just gonna have to stream on the Mac because anytime I try and do stuff on the PC, there's just a lot of issues. So I got the Mac going. Trading View works flawlessly, which is fantastic. Just gonna take a lot to get used to here. And then yeah, we're gonna go from TD Ameritrade because I can't use TOS on this Mac with the M1 chip. Kind of sucks. I will be going over to E-Trade to finish out the small account overall with E-Trade because they have a web-based platform that's actually really nice. So yeah, yeah. So let's sit back on our hands, and if those option chains are messed up, again, sit back on your hands. Be patient here, and let's not jump the gun or anything like that. Right. So if options are acting a little wacky right now, then the best bet is to just go focus on some of these low float pennies that may have some potential here. Starting to see IMPL trying to push on up here just a little bit. Nothing too crazy with IMPL, but it's trying to get a little bit of a pop to the upside. Then if we go take a look at WOLF, WOLF is starting to fall below that 6650 level. So nothing just yet with, again, WOLF, nothing with IMPL just yet at this point in time. And you guys said that the spreads a little wacky. Those option chains acting a little wacky here at the SPY. So again, just really being hands off right now. Be patient. So there's the SPY coming right up into Monday's low of day, closing that gap here as we can see. So right now, the first area is the low of day. Now, if it breaks low of day, we can close the gap with the open, right? That'd be Monday's open. Okay, but Monday's low of day is at 442.63. That's resistance. If it breaks that area, it could close the gap all the way up at 442.92, but we see these low of days holding up pretty well. So here is again Monday's low of day. We've just popped right on up. We're starting to see it kind of back down just a little bit. And this could be an area where we start to top on out, where we see the SPY just having a hard time getting above that level and eventually start to see it roll on over there on the SPY. So if you see a lot of resistance up here on the SPY and we cannot break above that 442.64 level, that would be a good area to start thinking about getting a short on the SPY if those options chains tighten up a little bit and stop acting so wacky. So again, there's the SPY right up into that level. You just want to see a nice confirmation candle. Want to see a nice confirmation candle. And right now, let's see how this candle closes on out. So right now, we're starting to push on up above that level. Where could we go next? We could actually close the gap into the body, which would be Monday's open, and that's going to put you up towards around that 442.90 level. So right now, again, not really getting that confirmation candle here at that 442.63, coming straight above it. Now we're squeezing up pretty nice. Now we're closing the gap. SPY had a pretty big pop there, but we are now officially closing that gap off of again Monday's open. So again, still got to wait for some confirmation. If you see it topping on out, can't break above that level, then you could start thinking about getting short here on the SPY. But right now, still looking pretty decent to the upside. Right now, you're just hands off. WOLF is still pulling on back. IMPL still just chopping around here a little bit. You got Tesla having a nice big pop to the upside. And again, you got the SPY closing that gap. Again, we opened up at 442.92 there on Monday. We gapped down this morning. We're starting to close this gap. Let's see what the SPY does here up at this level. Right. And if we stay below this level and we get confirmation for a short, again, you just look for a simple short position off that level. You could definitely see the SPY come back down into this pullback low here before getting that leg on up. And really, depending on if you get confirmation for the short, we'll see how this short idea would play on out. But we're still pushing on up. There is no reason to be getting short just yet here on the SPY. We are still squeezing on up little by little by little. So now it's like, okay, are we going to close the gap up towards around Monday's close? Right? Is that where we're going? Are we going to close the gap up towards around again Monday's close, which would be all up at 443.90? It's another dollar on the upside. So again, guys, you're literally 15 minutes out of the gate. Okay, 15 minutes out. First 10 minutes, options, I guess, were a little funky, acting a little odd. So you're really not missing anything right now at this point in time. You're 15 minutes in, just waiting for absolute best opportunity here with the SPY guys. Okay. Again, we're looking at WOLF. It's still just fading and falling. IMPL, again, still just kind of chopping around, not really doing all that much, even with IMPL at this point in time. And really just looking to see how high the SPY is going to go, right? We were looking at a couple of these initial gap fill levels right here on the SPY, right? Whether that was Monday's low of day or Monday's open. Now we're pushing above both of those levels, and we take a look here intraday. Looks like we want to stable those levels right now at this point in time. So where's the next area that the SPY could be going to the long side, right? I mean, go up towards around Monday's close, right? And then Monday's close being right around 443.80, right? Right around 443.80. So right now, if you're looking to play it long, again, you have some room up to 443.80. Right now, I would be